Good morning, my name's Tom and you join us here on the banks of the River Tyne for another Sportfish YouTube video. Courtesy of Bywell, so thank you to them. Obviously, spring fishing is slightly different to summer fishing, and therefore I'd like to run through a few bits of my equipment that will hopefully aid you to catch a few more spring fish this season. So, given the condition that we are fishing in through the spring, it's vital to keep warm. If you keep your feet, keep your head and keep your fingers warm, then your day of fishing will be far more enjoyable. So making sure that you have the right undergarments, and then looking at the actual waders, a pair of decent breathable waders would be beneficial. If you're having to walk a little bit, the Gore-Tex material ends up taking any moisture away from you, keeping you warmer throughout the day. A pair of boots, in these cases they're boas, they're Sims boas with a stream tread bottom to them. Making sure that you guys put some spikes or studs in, very important to stay safe whilst wading. Moving on to the actual wading staff, vital that you have a wading staff, especially when you're fishing waters that you don't necessarily know, and maybe that water has changed since you last fished it. So a good wading staff to actually use as a probe as well as a safety unit. Obviously a cap, keeping the head slightly warmer. From a safety point of view as well, if you're using big flies with big trebles or doubles, it's important to stay safe whilst you're fishing, especially in the spring when it's a bit windy, a bit blustery, etc. Going on to the wading jacket, it's vital that you stay dry if it starts to rain. So in this instance, it's another Gore-Tex material jacket, and it's a very useful part of your equipment. Additional socks to keep your feet nice and toasty whilst you're wading, because you might be out in the water for up to maybe six or 7 hours throughout the day. So fingerless gloves, keeping those little guys nice and warm. For those of you who have a dodgy back, a back saver is a very useful piece of equipment. It acts as a wading belt as well. So, for those who might struggle a little bit, it really helps. You don't know you're wearing it. You don't even know if it's really helping, but at the end of the day, you don't have an aching back. So it's a good bit of equipment. Moving on to flies, a good selection of tubes, and in this case I've just got them all in a poly pocket with all the different sizes, different weights, different materials, different lengths of the wings, and different colours, and a good selection, so you can actually then just go through them, dependable on the water coloration, dependable on the coldness. The water temperature will dictate what size and what weight of fly you require for that particular day. Moving on to glasses, obviously from a safety aspect it's important to have a pair of glasses on, whether they're reading glasses or polarized fishing glasses. In this case I've got a yellow lens. The yellow lens is just great for dull light, so it helps enhance the light. Moving on to hooks, I have a separate unit for holding the hooks, and I've just got them laid out, different variants, different sizes, whether they're doubles or trebles. Obviously just remember, some fisheries don't like trebles, but on this particular one we're able to use. And don't always go really big with the treble. A lot of the time the smaller trebles will actually hold a better hold within that fish, to hopefully reduce your chance of losing it. So moving on to the actual reels and lines combination. Large arbor reels allows you to get more line back onto the spool quicker, but in my case I've got three setups. I've got a Skagit setup, which is relevant to the weight of the rod, and with multiple different tips of different lengths, because there's going to be different times that you might have to fish at different depths throughout that day, dependable on the depth of the water that you're fishing in. I've got a shooting head setup, which is a full line, which is a triple density. and that gives me 3 different densities to the actual sink rate to the fly line, and I've got that in a float, hover, intermediate, and then I've also got it in a hover, intermediate, sink 3. And then I've just got a normal bog standard Scandi, Rio Scandi shooting head with various 10-foot Versi leaders down to about a sink 6. But obviously the shorter the tip, the less density you're actually going to be able to generate. So having these 3 setups hopefully gives me the ability to cover all aspects of your day, dependable on obviously the heights and the coldness of the water temperature. And then just the rod itself, you know, in this instance it's a 13.5 foot for a 910. It's an LXI, guideline LXI. It's, you know, it's a typical shooting head rod, and for this purpose, for this size of river, 13.5 to 14.5 foot for my money is the way forward. You don't necessarily need to be using those long 15-foot rods anymore. You know, it's not about casting from one side of the river to the other, because you can't then control where and how you're fishing that fly. You want to be fishing specific smaller areas where you believe those spring fish are going to be held up before they migrate further. So I think from now we're going to get myself set up, I'm going to put the rods up, get changed, and then we're going to go fishing. So that concludes part 1 of our 2-part video on spring salmon fishing. I hope that the equipment that I've gone through helps you prepare for your first salmon fishing trip of the season. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you'll find all the latest videos, and you can follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. And in part 2 we're going to go through how to fish a pool in the spring, so look forward to seeing you down on the banks of the River Tyne.